you get started. So welcome. We are missing Heidi today. I will not tell you the story why, but she will be back next week. We love you, Heidi.
Poor Heidi.
Well, she may or she may not, because she's got some things coming up. So we'll see. Awesome. There might be a little break there.
Sometimes I play it safe, and you can see it. It's easy for me to show. But sometimes I'm really brave, and that just means that I'll try again tomorrow. It's my doubt creating mountains where the valleys used to be. Gotta change perspective if I really want to see.
But anyways, so we have Trinaty here with us today,
Hi.
and we're so happy that Trinaty's here. I've known you for what? How many years?
Better part of 5 or
6 years.
Mm-hmm.
We used to do ship shopping together, and we became quick friends doing that and sharing all the crazy horror stories of our ship shopping days. So anyways, yeah, I'm just happy to be in your life, and I love it because I put out there and I was like, if anybody has any topics that they want, or if they want to be on the show or whatever, just get a hold of me. And Trinaty did. And I was like, yes, please. So yeah, I think we had talked about this a while ago, last year.
When we were doing the pictures.
Yeah, when we were doing the 100, or ended up being 200 smiles. But yeah, we had talked about it. So I feel like this is a good time to be talking about that. So why don't you go ahead, introduce yourself.
Well, I'm
Tell
Trinaty.
us who you are.
I'm Trinaty, and when Sarah reached out, I think I'm to a point now where I can actually discuss grief in a way that I'm not going to immediately break down. I'm not promising anything, but I might not immediately break down. But grief comes in so many forms, and I've lost the two most important people in my life. Very, I don't want to say suddenly, because it wasn't suddenly, but it was suddenly to me, and at that age, or at the ages I was when they passed. And, when you lose your parents, there's nothing that prepares you for the journey that you're about to go on and the rest of your life to live without them. And I had to learn very quickly that there's no one that can teach you how to live without them. And it's a day-by-day, thing that you have to learn alone. And we'll go back. My mom passed away the day after my 30th birthday. She had COPD and was in and out of the hospital for the better part of 3 years before that. And when she passed, she was my best friend, my absolute best friend. Told her everything. She knew there was no secrets with her. And I never thought I would be able to live without her. But of course, you have to learn. I mean, what's the alternative,
Right.
And at that time, I had 2 small children. I had my oldest, who was, he was 6 at the time, and my youngest, he was 5 at the time, and my youngest, who at the time was 6 months old. And I had to, at the bare minimum, go on for them.
Right.
For no one else but them. And of course, then I had my dad and my sister, and my husband, who I wanted to be there for. And eventually got through all that. And then in November of 2021, we had stopped over at my dad's apartment to just see him after a soccer game. It was the Michigan-Ohio State game, and the boys all wanted to watch the ending of it. So I was like, fine, whatever. We'll go over and watch it. I'm going to take a nap. And we stopped there, and it's a good thing we did, because after the game, Michigan won, by the way.
Yay.
Dad was like, hang on a second. He's like, I need you to, and he walks into the kitchen and comes back, and he's got a box of his K-Cups, and he's like, He's like, can you stop at the store and get me some more of these? I'm like, yeah, I'll pick them up for you on Monday. I'll bring them over. And he's like, okay, no problem. And then he looks over at me and he goes, and Tucker, who's my youngest, and I'm like, yeah. And immediately he just rolls to his side and starts having a grand mal seizure. Never had a seizure in his life. And I, of course, as a medical assistant, like, know to get him, down on his side so he's not going to, aspirate or choke or anything like that, only to find that he stopped breathing.
Wow.
And so at the time we're on the phone, my husband calls 911 and they're like, does he have a pulse? And I check and he doesn't. And so she's like, you have to start CPR. And that is not something that I think anyone really prepares themselves well enough to be able to do on anyone, let alone your dad or your parents or anybody that you love. And so I'm on top of him doing compressions, trying to get him back. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm about to lose my father. And thank God at that time he came through and he started choking and coughing and stuff. And he was turning over and stopped seizing. And that's right when the EMTs came in and they're like, you did everything right. You got him back, and everything. And I'm traumatized at this point. And I'm just like, what just happened? They get him to the hospital. They have no idea what caused his seizure. He's no longer seizing, but he is unable to sit still for any kind of, MRI or CT scan. And the doctors at the time were like, we don't sedate people. We don't do that. So, we're not going to do any more imaging and we're going to go ahead and send him home. I was like, oh, for my dead body, you're sending him home. I'm like, he can't form a coherent sentence at this point. And no, I'm like, I don't have care for him. I'm like, I can be there with him, but what if this happens again? It was not a good situation. So the doctor came in, he reassessed him, and he's like, okay, we'll keep him overnight. I'm like, okay. And they continued and they did some more testing with, different neurologists and, different doctors and such. And still to this day, have no idea what caused it because he had one of those monitors on and never once had another seizure.
Wow.
And they had him on a feeding tube. They had him on all sorts of monitors, and still he wasn't the same after that seizure. And then fast forward to January of 2022, he's in the hospital the entire time. January 21st was the day that they were, let's go back. January 10th is when they were going to send him to a assisted living facility way north, like up here in Michigan, like 3
Super
hours
far
from me.
away.
Yeah.
Right.
And 2 hours from my sister. And I was like, what? And the last test that they had to do before he could go was a COVID test. And he was positive. And so at that point, thank God he was positive because we were able to get him approved for Medicaid and we're able to find a facility that was closer. And so he had to spend 10 days in isolation. And then they came and they found a place that was in Wayland, much, much closer. And all I kept thinking to myself was, this isn't happening again. This is not happening again. I'm like, my dad and my mom were something else when it came to their marriage. Like, they were the epitome of what everyone, strives to have. They loved each other more than anything else in this world. And when my mom passed, my dad was completely lost until the day that he left. And I know that he wanted to go and he wanted to be with her and wanted to make sure as much as he possibly could that he was going to be back with her. And on the 21st was the day that they decided they were going to discharge him from the hospital. That was 40 days after he got there. Discharge him to the assisted living facility down in Wayland. And I just kept begging him, like, please, I just have this feeling. I just have this feeling that he's not going to last to Monday. Can we please just keep him for the weekend? And they're like, he's medically stable to go. And I'm like, mark my words, this man will not make it to Monday. And so the 21st, they took him by ambulance. We got him all, settled into not my top choice for a facility for him to go to, but it was what accepted his insurance, and got him in there. And the very next day was the 22nd, and my husband had planned a surprise 40th birthday party for me. And I didn't know that, but I just kept telling him, like, I don't need to be going out tonight. I just know something bad's going to happen. And I can't tell you why or how I knew. I just knew. And at the time, he kept saying, well, it was just a couple of our friends that we were meeting out. And I didn't know it was a surprise. And so I thought, I'm going out for an hour, and then I'm going home. And I'm going down to see my dad. I'm not going to be doing this all night long thing. And when I got there, obviously, you guys were there.
We were there.
And I thought, you know what? Maybe this is where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
So I finally let loose, and I had a drink, and I just kind of started to relax. And I remember sitting at the bar, and I just had this weird feeling, and I had my phone. It was sitting on the bar just like this.
I can picture it when I close my eyes. I really can.
And I grab it like this, and it's ringing, and it's the nursing home facility. And I just knew. I pick it up, and they're like, you need to get down here as soon as possible, because he's not going to last much longer. And I remember everybody just grabbing all of the gifts and throwing them in the back, and we'll take care of everything. Just go. And I no sooner, it wasn't even 5 minutes, and we were on the road to get there, and I got another call, and they're like, I'm so sorry, he's gone. And so at that point, my dad had passed 55 minutes before my birthday. And then it was my birthday on the 23rd, so that was the 22nd, 23rd, and then my mom had passed on the 24th. And, learning how to live without them is bad, but then, everybody gets that one special day, their birthday, that's their day.
Yep.
And mine is surrounded by, when I go back and think about right close to that day happening, it was nothing but them. Like, how am I going to be able to ever celebrate my birthday again? Like, I'm just not going to be able to. It's going to be sad from this point on.
Right.
It's still emotional, but now I kind of look at it like they're always right there giving me a great big birthday hug every year. And so it's
from one side and from the other.
Exactly. It's both of them just wrapping their arms around me, and it's just crazy to think about that. Like, I don't know that I've ever met anybody else who's lost people that close to the birthday, let alone
Right.
the day before and the day after.
No, that adds something more to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom could have been, she was in the hospital for 3 weeks before, was on breathing machine, literally could have gone at any moment. And we brought her home from the hospital on hospice, and she was there for 10 days, not eating, not drinking, could have easily gone any of the days before. But she didn't. She held on, and she knew that she couldn't, she didn't want to go on my birthday, even though she was unresponsive for 3 days before. So just, she wasn't opening her eyes. She wasn't aware that we were there or anything for 3 days before. But she held on so that she didn't pass on my birthday.
Yeah.
And I think my dad was trying to go on that same day that she went to just ensure that they'd be together. And he wasn't strong enough to make it that long, but he didn't want to go on my birthday.
Right.
So he went just a few minutes before. And so, that's just a testament to their love. I just feel like.
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
But
I'm going to stop for just a minute. Can you grab the box of tissues, please? I forgot I was going to put it right in the center of the table, and then I was like, well, that was dumb. We're talking about grief today, and I don't put tissues out in the middle of the... Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I was going to put them... Thank you. going to put him in the center of the table.
Oh, grief is, from what because I started going to like, not grief counseling, but like grief group sessions. And, there's so many different forms of grief. Not just losing a loved one. It can be anything. Like, we lost our dog a week ago yesterday. We lost our dog that was like our first family pet and everything. And that's a whole nother set of grief. Like, it's just a different feeling. And, like what you're going through, that's another set of grief. Like
it is,
grieving who you were before and grieving who you are now, or, learning to love who you are now.
Right.
It's opened my eyes going to those, group sessions, like to all the different things that grief can mean to one person.
Right. And it doesn't seem to hit, and you can speak to this better than I can. Well, maybe like from what I'm going through, but it doesn't hit all at once. You don't just cry at the funeral and then you're done. There's smells, there are songs, there are just those moments where you find yourself and you're like, whoa, and it's like a wave that just knocks you over and you didn't expect it and you didn't see that one coming, and it just overtakes you and you have to acknowledge that. I think so many people miss out on that part. They try 100%. To just, it's fine. Like, I'm good. No, there's a reason that those emotions have come up at that moment.
Absolutely.
And you need to allow yourself to feel them, to acknowledge them, to because if you don't, they're going to get buried farther and farther and farther and farther. And then they come out at even weirder times. And you're like, wait a minute. Okay, that's unresolved from whatever. And I briefly touched on that last week when I talked to Heidi about it, because I was just irritated all day and I couldn't figure out what the problem was, and I was down and I was sad, but I couldn't logically in my brain figure out what I was upset about until Aaron came upstairs and was talking to me, and I told him that I was totally devastated by losing both of my boobs and I couldn't find anything to wear. But I had no idea until that moment that was what I was upset about. And it was almost one of those, oh, I didn't know that. Cool. Now I do, and then I was able to acknowledge the emotion, feel the emotion, and let it go. And then now I can verbalize it better, like when I'm getting dressed, and go, all right, I'm gearing myself up. This is going to suck, but I'm going to figure it out, rather than just keeping it down and down and down and down and then just exploding it.
Absolutely.
Really weird
100%.
moments. Yeah.
That's so true. It comes out of nowhere. And sometimes you're in the grocery store, and by the way, the songs that they're playing in the grocery store, they should not be playing some of those songs, because they come up and like you're just sitting there looking at cereal, and all of a sudden you hear the tune and you're just like,
oh yeah, yep.
Why am I sitting here and emotional and you just feel these tears coming, and you're just like, why? Or smells. Somebody will walk past you on the street and you just get a whiff of their their cologne or their perfume, or cigarette smell, because both my parents smoked, and I'll get a whiff of it in the most random places. And then for me, anyways, it's like they were just stopping in to say hi.
I love that.
They just wanted to let me know that I was still in their thoughts, and I should still have them in mind, and I do all the time.
I think it would be impossible not to.
Yeah.
I mean, they were such a big part of your life for your entire life until they left. You know, that there's no way that you could even go a moment, a second, without thinking of them and their influence that they had in your life.
100%.
And it's that way for anybody that is super, super close, for any kind of relative or close friends, or like pets. You just talked about your pet. I remember when we lost our Jersey, she was, she grew up with our kids, kind of like your dog did, grew up with your kids.
Yep.
And when you get a pet, they have a limited life. You know that.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Going into it, you're like, cute little puppy, I love this puppy. You wish they could live forever.
Right.
But you know that you're going to lose them. And it's, for people that don't have pets, they don't understand that is a family member. You have lost a family member.
Yes,
you know,
100%.
And ours was the same thing. Like, she She was 12 and a half. She could barely function. She was barely holding on. And all of our kids had trips to go out of the state and of the country all in a row. So, you know, Alex went to Mexico and then he came home, and then Addison went somewhere else. I don't remember where she went, somewhere in northern Michigan. And she came home. And then Logan, who was the closest one to Jersey, went to Washington, D.C. And he was so worried before he left on that trip. Like, please, I hope that, you know, just praying that she did not leave before he got home. Well, he got home at like 6:15 or 6:45 in the morning because they had driven through the night. And he got home, and we had kept the other 2 kids home from school because we just knew, you know, that was going to be the day. But she waited until he got home to say goodbye. And then she was like, okay, it's time, you know, now I can go. This poor thing could barely move. She could barely walk, but we were all able to be there. And just like your parents, like that timing, it's not a coincidence.
It's not.
That is something that is greater than our minds can understand, because we can't possibly imagine somebody that is laying there in their bed that is not responsive, that you don't think can even hear or you know, figure out what's going on, but they know. They just know. You know, it's absolutely, it's mind-blowing when you think about the greater power of all of that.
Absolutely.
That there is.
Absolutely.
And I love the thought of your parents hugging you from both sides, and how you can take such a tragedy and such a loss and such a devastation and turn it into comfort and love and security, and that you will know that they will always be hugging you and loving you until you see them again.
Absolutely.
You know, and I love that you shared that. That's how you feel.
It's not easy, though. I'll tell you what,
gosh.
because
No.
when you're in it, you're like, how can I ever be anything but sad about these 2 not being here?
I saw you a year ago, and you said those words to me. And you were sitting on the couch over there. It was red. The couch
I remember
sitting
it.
right over there. And you said that. You had tears streaming down your face, and you said, how can I ever, you know?
Yeah.
But here you are a year later, and you are.
Yeah.
You are. It is not easy.
It's not.
And you have just have shown us such a beautiful example of somebody that you have 3 beautiful children. You have a wonderful husband. You knew, just like your dad, you know, like you had to keep going. Like, and when you lost your mom, you knew, like, I have to keep going because they need me. They're here with me. They're on this side of things. You know, your mom had gone already, but you knew that the people that were closest to you here, you couldn't fall apart for. You knew you needed to continue for them, to be strong for them. And that sounds impossible. It just sounds
feels
impossible.
that way too sometimes.
Yeah, to just even be able to get out of bed and be able to get up, and then you have to get up. You have to live your life. You have to make your kids breakfast. You have to pack them lunch to go to school. You
Absolutely.
have to do the normal everyday things, which must just feel completely daunting and heavy and impossible.
They are. Those first, the first year, the first few months, literally, the amount of effort it took to even just get up, to roll out of bed, was like moving a mountain. It really was. And then slowly that mountain gets a little bit smaller, and then it's not quite so big. And then as the days go on, like I remember telling my mother-in-law, like it was after the first month, and I was still in bed pretty much every day. And she had come over and she had asked, you know, if I needed anything. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, I'm still in bed. I'm like, but I miss them so much.
Right.
And she's like, it's only been a month. She's like, you need to give yourself a little more grace. You need to just allow yourself to be whatever you need to be right now. It's only been 4 weeks. And I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, but that's 4 weeks that I haven't done all the things that my family needs. That's all the things that I would normally do. And they're like, we've got this. We're okay right now. You know, like we're not missing anything. You're taking care of what you need to take care of, which is you right now. You've just gone through like probably one of the hardest things that any one person will go through. And you need to allow yourself to be sad for this moment, you know? And it took me a long time to just be like, I'm okay. I can be where I'm at. I can feel what I'm feeling and be okay with that. It took me 2 or 3 months to just be okay with it. And then I was like, looking at it more objectively at that point, like, but would my parents, would they really want me to still be laying in bed at 4 months past, or even 1 day past? They'd be like, get your butt out of bed. Like, yeah, we were awesome, but you got to keep going. You can't just lay here and miss us. Like, we're going to all, like, I hear that in my head. Like, we're always going to be with you. Like, there's no question about it. Like, I think I might've told you this, like, back when I was here about a year ago, like, they send me signs all the time. And my mom passed on the 24th. My dad passed on the 22nd. And so I'll see, before my dad passed, we would see the number 24 everywhere. And we just immediately knew, Mom's here, Now I see 224. So it's 22 and 24 together. And now I see that, and I know they're both there.
Right.
And so, like, whether it's a clock, whether it's a car that pulls out in front of me and their license plate says 224, whatever it is, like, they're always with me. And so that's something that obviously helped me get out of that funk, was just knowing that they're always going to be there with me, guiding me from the other side. Like, I can't talk to them. I mean, they can't talk to me, but they can definitely show me that they're still with me.
Absolutely.
And I'll forever be grateful, and I cannot wait for the day that I get to be back with them.
But on the flip side of that, they also knew you needed to take care of you. You needed to take that time to be cared for. They couldn't care for you at that moment, right? But everybody else in your life was able to care for you in that moment. And I know you, and that's hard for you, just like it's hard for me. We don't want to, we want to be the ones caring for others. We don't want to be the patient,
Absolutely.
And it is such a hard thing to accept that help, and to take care of you, to know that that is what you needed in that moment to get through that impossibly hard and difficult and devastating situation. And I'm so proud of you for doing it. That's a weird statement to say, right?
But
I am so proud of you for doing that, because you allowed yourself that healing time. You allowed yourself this is what I've got. Sometimes I've got 100% I can give, and sometimes I've got 1% I can give. And right now, I've got 1, which means everybody else can bring the 99 that you need, because you have surrounded yourself with people that love you. You pour out love onto others, so you are allowed to accept that love when you need it.
Yeah.
And so let me ask you this. When you were in those moments, and this would be helpful for our audience, when you're in that moment, what did you need from people? And what did you not need? Let's start with that. What did you not need? Like, what frustrates you when people say certain things or do certain things when you're in that immediate grieving process?
Well, right after it happened, it was, oh, I know what you're going through. But you don't. Because you don't know exactly how I'm feeling. And have you lost both parents, like, that close to your birthday? Have you, yes, you can empathize with somebody, but to say flat out, I know what you're going through. I know, and you'll be fine. Really? I'm so glad you can see into the future, because I don't think I'm going to be fine at that moment. I just want to know that you care. I want to know that when I'm ready to talk, or if I'm ready to talk, that you're going to be there.
Yeah.
Not like, food was great. Everyone, they brought food and would come over and just, here, I'll take the kids to wherever you need me to take them or whatever. And that was great. But yeah, the hardest thing was when people were like, oh, I know exactly what you're going through. Because your cat died, you know exactly how I'm feeling right now. Okay, that's
makes you angry.
It
No, I understand. I do understand that part of it. I really do. Yeah.
It was frustrating. Like, because it's like, but you don't, because you don't know the relationship that I had with my parents and how close I was. And even if you had the exact same relationship with your parents, unless you've lost them that close together, there's really no way that you could ever understand how I feel.
Would it have been, and this is just a genuine, honest question I don't know the answer to, is if somebody were to have said, like, how are you feeling right now?
Yes.
What are you thinking about? Tell me about, what are you thinking about? And then...
Yeah. And then stop talking and actually listen to me, even if I'm just going to start crying. Because at that time, that's all I was able to do.
Right.
Because I didn't know how I was feeling. I was just sad all the time. I was just missing those two people so much. And, it was because the days after that happens, you're having to talk with the funeral home, and you think the adults are supposed to handle that. You're the kid.
Yeah.
But then when this is the last parent you have, you're now that person. You have to go talk to the funeral director. You have to go talk with and send out all of the information to all of the family that's still here and let everybody know, and it's like you're just so occupied with that you don't even begin your grief until
all of that is past.
until literally weeks after that's done, because my dad, he passed, and it was a week later we had his memorial service, and then we were over on the east side of the state because that's where he was at for a few more days, and then we came home, and it wasn't until I stopped doing things that it just hit me like a brick wall. Like it was so overwhelming. So to have somebody come up to me and be like, "How are you feeling?"
I don't know. I can't even start to explain. That is exactly what the words you would say is, I don't know. Because you're in the doing phase. You're in the details and we got to get this done. We have to figure all this out. I've got to plan all this. I've got to do all of this. Then the dust settles. Then the real emotions hit.
Absolutely.
And by that time, people tend to have moved on with their lives.
Yeah.
And I can say it's the same, not the same. Let me not compare this, right? Similar situation, which I had somebody that has gone through cancer that told me the same thing. Everybody in the beginning is like, oh no, let's help. She says cancer is one of the loneliest journeys you can go through because everybody's devastated when you first find out, right? And then they go on with their lives and they totally forget that you're still in it.
Yeah.
You're still in your grief. You're going to deal with your grief for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
Everybody else was like on it that first week, maybe 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's old news, So I have decided that when somebody I know is going through something like this, I'm not going to do something right away. Right. I'm going to communicate with them, but I'm not going to do something right away. I'm going to wait about a month, maybe a month and a half to 2 months. Then I'm going to come alongside them and say, all right, now you're in it. You're really in it now. Where can I be the most help? Can I just sit with you? Can we talk? Can I listen? Can I clean your house? Can I figure this out?
Yeah.
Because that is when the people really need it. All the relatives have gone home. All of the stuff has got put away. All of the, the houses have been cleaned out. The clothes have been given away. All of that. And then your mind has the time to sit and think. Anyways, but I think that's such an important part that people get wrong every time. No matter if it's devastating news, no matter if it's a health issue or a loss or, just whatever it is, remember, those people are in it for the long haul.
Absolutely.
Check in with them later. Check in with them a couple months down the road. Keep checking in with them and keep sitting with them. And I do feel like that it runs parallel with somebody that's going through depression, anxiety, depression. They're sitting in the pit. You were wrong. I was right. He was wrong. We're just going to have that on camera and on the sound. We're just making sure that we know that. Can we pause for we'll just let the train go do its thing.
Sure. What's funny is like those are the things that pull you out. Like those crazy things that happen like when no one can plan for that stuff.
You can't.
And that's the stuff that's like, of course a train would come by right now.
You can
when
laugh
you're feeling
or
like
you
that.
can cry. And I have felt like that, like through my whole journey. I can laugh or I can cry, and I've done a plenty of both.
Yeah.
There's just my forever road name will be Solo Cup now, and I'm totally cool with that. And even though I have no cups, I'm still going to be Solo Cup forever, and I just love that. And I'm
Absolutely.
like, I'll just, you can't control what happens to you. You cannot control anything around you. The only thing you can control is your reaction.
That's how you react to it. Absolutely.
And that's it, you know? And again, not everything has to be sunshine and rainbows, and not everything has to be like, I'm fine, I'm great, I'm fine, I'm fine. No, you know what? I'm having a really shitty day.
Really sucks today.
Sorry, it's a really bad day. And that's okay to say.
Yes.
It is really okay.
100%.
And I wish more people would understand that you don't have to use the word I'm fine. I hate the word I'm fine.
You too.
But are you? But are you really?
No.
And it's really funny because have you ever, like, somebody's just kind of passing, hey, how are you doing? Insecure, neurotic, and emotional.
Yep.
Yes. But it's funny to me because, dang, how long is this train? I have like good words to speak. Such good words to speak. The train. So like while we're talking about it, we've got about 10 minutes. What else do we want to cover in this? What else did you want to share?
That no one's grief journey is the same.
Oh yeah.
It's just not. It's going to be different for every person, for every type of grief journey, the length of time, the type of journey it's going to be, whether it's going to be one that's, really hard in the beginning and then gets easier as the days go on, or one that's really easy in the beginning until you start to learn how to live without them, and then it's never going to be the same for anybody, anybody. And I mean, you can empathize with somebody, but more than anything, just being there.
Right.
Not saying a word, just being there for someone is so important. Like you were just saying, like, just having somebody that's like, after all the dust settles, coming through and coming in and saying, what do you need right now? Or what can I do for you right now? Or can I make your day better some way?
Right. Right.
When they think that everyone's gone and then you show up, that's going to mean the world to them.
I agree.
I promise you it will.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. And again, like you were saying, just being there. Mm-hmm. Do you want to watch the TV together? Do you want to listen to music together? Just to know that you're not alone, that you're not sitting there alone, because when we're alone with our thoughts,
it's dangerous.
We go down these tunnels
so
that it's
dangerous.
Almost impossible to get out of, So to just have somebody, I mean, I can picture, did you watch the Gilmore Girls?
No.
Okay, so there's a scene in the Gilmore Girls where the mom was in a relationship and they broke up, right? And it was devastating. Like, she was absolutely devastated by this. And her daughter literally goes to the store and buys like everything that her mom loves, surrounds her with it on the bed. She's like, you've got the TV here, you've got this here, you've got this here, you've got this here, you've got this here, and then just lays down next to her and just like hugs her from behind and just lets her cry. So the stuff was really cool, right? The TV being there, super cool. But the most important thing that she did was just to lay down with her, hug her, and let her cry and let her be, so that she knew she wasn't alone. And I loved that scene.
Absolutely.
And I can't tell you how many times that my daughter has done that for me during this whole journey, and just come up and just like held me, or my husband has just held me, know, because there's nothing, again, they can do. There's nothing people can do for you. They can't bring your parents back.
No.
But they can be there.
Yeah.
And you can tell stories about your parents. You can tell them funny stories. You can tell them embarrassing stories. You can tell them, memories that you love. I think that would be a great way as well, because you don't want to they die and then you forget about them. I mean, you want to be able to talk about that, and you want to be able to share about that. And I'm sure, like, with your kids too, and with your husband and family, and I mean, your kids had their own journey with all of this as well. I mean, you talking to them about it and finding out, what do you think is the best thing that you did for your kids while they were going through that grief?
Yeah, it was really, because my middle one and my dad were so close, like ridiculously close. And my dad passed in January. And so I know I think it was end of May is when the most recent Fast and Furious came out. And so, and they were just, I mean, those two, they would sit there and they would watch every Fast and they knew every word. They would sit there and just the whole movie just spout off all the lines and all the things. And so I made it a point that I wasn't anywhere close through my journey, you know, but I knew I needed to be there for him. And I knew that this would have been really, I mean, we had it on our calendars. We were all going to go to this thing.
Oh, wow.
And so I knew that I had to do that for him. And so I did. I pulled myself out of bed and we went to the theater and we watched that movie. And I'll never forget, like, he was like, oh my gosh, Papa would have loved this. Oh. He would have loved this movie. This would have been so awesome if he could have been here. And I'm sitting there like holding back all the emotions I possibly can because he's so excited about this. And he was like, you know, Papa would have loved when this car was going so fast and then it kind of turned. And he was just having his own memories with what he knew that Papa would love. And so that for me was definitely one of those moments where I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. But
and the strength of a mother, right?
Yeah.
The strength of a mother to be able to put aside, make me cry on that one, but to be able to put aside you for a moment, to know how important that was to him, meant the world for him. And had you missed that, you can't get that moment back. You can't ever get that back. And so sometimes that's enough to pull us. Our children are amazing at pulling us out of things, you know, but enough to pull you out of yourself for a second and say, this is what he needs. Yeah. You know, and that is, I love that. That's such a beautiful story that you guys were able to share that, because now you can look back at that and know, I nailed it. Yeah. I got that one right. I got that one right as a mom.
Else
you know?
I know I did that right. Absolutely.
Right. But those are the moments and those are the things that he's going to remember when he's a parent. Yeah. You know, he's going to look back and be like, oh my gosh. Because when they're older, they get it. When they're young, they're idiots. I love my children, but they're all idiots until they're like 25 and then their brains are fully formed, you know. But when he's a parent, he will remember that moment. And he'll be like, oh my gosh, my mom must have been hurting so bad. And she was so sad. And she took that moment to make sure I
to be strong
had
for me.
That memory. And I love that because that will become a legacy. That will become one of those legacy moments.
Absolutely.
In your life.
Absolutely.
And so I think that that's amazing. Did you just say it to stop? Are you yawning because we're so bored? Boring. I can say good words. What time were we at? We still have time to do a close? You are not responding. Excellent. Do I have more time to close?
So you have time to sit here and ask me if you have time to
Oh my gosh, I'm going to throw something at him. Anyways, well, you have been amazing. Thank you so much for
having me.
So open, honest, vulnerable, authentic. I mean, unfiltered. That's what this is all about, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to cry. Sure. It's okay to feel those feelings. It's okay to be yourself and to be able to have the strength and the courage to put yourself out here for everybody to see. You know, to be filmed and to be on all of the different podcast places, that's a lot to be able to do that. And I'm really glad we waited until this year. I'm really, really glad that it worked out to do it at this time, because I think it gave you just enough time into your grief journey to be able to have a clear thought about it, to be able to get through it. I mean, you articulated your story beautifully, and I actually was able to say a word properly once, so I'm kind of proud of myself for that, just for a second there. But yeah, so I just appreciate you, and I just thank you. And, you know, if people have questions, can we let them get a hold of you? Can I put your information out? And
if I can help one person, you know, just get over that hump or to, you know, start their journey a little less sad, then... and help them to know that they're not alone, by all means.
And also to help people know how to help people. I think that is such a strong and powerful message, because every day somebody we know is going through something, right? And most of us are idiots and don't know how to handle it, because we get all uncomfortable and we get all weird about it and we're just like, you know? So to tell people how to handle that and what is the most helpful, I think is brilliant. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate it. So
glad to be here.
Well, I'm Sarah. You know who I am at this point, and we will see you again next week. All right. Bye.